From the station working for you, this is Good Morning Indiana, streaming now.
And it is 5 o'clock here on your Friday. Good morning to you. I'm Lauren Casey. Here's what's making headlines on this October 23rd. Early voting in Indiana is expanding. This morning, what you need to know if you want to cast your ballot before November 3rd. Another single-day record of COVID-19 cases in the state of Indiana. We're taking a look into these numbers, and we'll show you where in the Hoosier state we compare to our neighbors. And Gleaner's Food Bank is once again teaming up with the Motor Speedway to feed Hoosiers in need. We'll have the details on a drive-through event, including how you can get help. But first, here at 5, we want to get a check of our forecast as it is Friday. We're heading into the weekend, and Todd, we had a beautiful day yesterday here across central Indiana.
Yeah, it was absolutely spectacular. I went out to Eagle Creek and went golfing, and with the colors and the warm weather, it was absolutely beautiful. Hope you took advantage doing something outdoors as well. And you still have an opportunity here at the beginning of today because temperatures this morning are nice and mild. We're in the mid to upper 60s with a mainly clear sky. And our temperatures this morning will quickly warm into the 70s. So it turns into a mild day. But then with the flip of a switch and the passage of a cold front, we are going to see our temperatures really drop off very, very quickly. Here is that front right now. It's still off to our west, but it's going to come through here during the afternoon hours. Now, before that front arrives, it's not out of the question there could be a stray shower or downpour that pops up by the noon hour, but the passage of the front will be about 2 o'clock here off to the west. I think it comes through the heart of the metro area and much of the central portion of the state between 4 and 5 o'clock, and then eventually off towards the east as we get into the 7 o'clock hour. So it does move through very quickly, but some of these storms could be borderline strong to severe, with wind and hail being the main threat. There's a small threat of an isolated tornado, but I think the better potential for that will be closer to the state line in northern Indiana compared here to central Indiana. Notice how the temperatures climb up into the 70s, and then as soon as that front goes through, by 5 p.m. we are back down into the 60s. I would say by 6 or 7 o'clock, Lauren, temperatures across most of the area will be falling into the 50s.
All right, Todd, thank you so much. Let's get a look at traffic as you are heading out on the roads this morning, taking you over here to the west side of town. If you're using I-70 heading between the airport and the downtown area in the eastbound direction, it's an 11-minute commute. So that is traveling up to speed between Ronald Reagan Parkway and I-65 at the south split. We'll continue to keep an eye on any traffic issues and keep you updated this morning. So more than 1 million Hoosiers have already cast their ballot in this year's election, and that number, of course, will continue to rise if we are still more than a week away from the election. Our own Kelsey Anderson is joining us live this morning with more. Kelsey, good morning.
Hey, good morning. So that's right. More than 1 million people have already voted here in just Indiana in this year's election. And today, Vice President Mike Pence and Second Lady Karen Pence will join them by voting here in the Circle City. He and the Second Lady are expected to vote at 8 a.m. at the Marion County Clerk's office. Our cameras will be rolling while he votes, and you can watch it live on Facebook and on the RTV News app. We expect that early voter number to rise because starting this weekend, more polling places are opening up across the state. Also starting today is Marion County's new wait times website. It will allow you to see what the current wait time is at your voting location. Now, that website is called indyvotetimes.org, and right now there's obviously nothing on there because it's 5 a.m. and there is no wait time and polls are not open. But you can expect later today around 8 o'clock that indyvotetimes.org will be running, and you can check your wait time before you go out. That's just here in Marion County. Reporting live, Kelsey Anderson, WRTV.
Kelsey, thank you. A final showdown between President Trump and Democratic nominee Joe Biden. The two candidates meeting on the debate stage in Nashville last night. This event was far less chaotic than the first debate, with each person's microphone being muted to avoid interruptions during their answers. As cases of COVID-19 continue to rise across the U.S., the pandemic once again taking center stage of the 90-minute debate.
220,000 Americans dead. If you hear nothing else I say tonight, hear this. Anyone who's responsible for not taking control, in fact, not saying I take no responsibility initially, anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain as President of the United States of America.
Excuse me, I take full responsibility. It's not my fault that he came here. It's China's fault. And you know what? It's not Joe's fault that he came here either. It's China's fault. They kept it from going into the rest of China for the most part, but they didn't keep it from coming out to the world, including Europe and ourselves.
Well, the candidates also battled over how to handle health care, racial tensions, and at times it got personal, with President Trump attacking Biden's family and Biden calling President Trump, quote, one of the most racist presidents in modern history, end quote. Well, if you need some help getting to the polls this election season, Indigo is offering some free rides on Election Day. All Indigo fixed route and open door services will be fare free on November 3rd from the start of the service until 10 p.m. Officials say Indigo is honored and proud to do their part to reduce voting barriers and support the community in exercising their right to vote. Once again, health officials report another record number of COVID-19 cases and an increase in Hoosier deaths. On Thursday, 2,880 new coronavirus cases were reported. That's the highest number reported in a single day since the state started tracking cases back in March. So far, more than 155,000 Hoosiers have tested positive for COVID-19. And health officials also report 42 COVID-related deaths. As of this morning, 3,831 Hoosiers have died with COVID-19. Here in Marion County alone, health officials report more than 25,000 cases of COVID-19 and 785 coronavirus-related deaths to date. That's the most in the state. With the rising cases and increasing deaths, we're continuing to keep a close eye on resources available in hospitals all around our state. At this hour, we can report that 31% of Indiana's ICU beds are still available. 20% are occupied by those COVID patients. Just over 78% of the ventilators in our state are still available this morning. And we want to take a look now and see where Indiana stands in comparison to our surrounding states. Again, our state reported 2,880 additional COVID cases on Thursday. Let's go over to our neighbors in Ohio, a state with about 5 million more people than Indiana. Their health department confirms 2,425 additional cases over the past 24 hours. Our neighbors in Illinois, their number reported on Thursday is 4,942 additional cases. They have around 6 million more people than the state of Indiana. For more on how COVID-19 is impacting different areas of your life, the guidelines that are put in place, plus what you can do to get through this difficult time and hopefully find some positivity along the way, that's all at WRTV.com/coronavirus. It's 5:07 on your Friday. The FDA has officially approved the first drug to treat COVID-19. The antiviral medicine remdesivir was granted emergency use in the spring, but now it will be open to everyone. With its approval, Gilead Sciences has also given remdesivir a new name. It will be marketed now as Veklury. In the large study by the U.S. National Institutes of Health, the drug was shown to cut coronavirus recovery time by 5 days. Veklury is approved for people who are at least 12 years old, weigh at least 88 pounds, and are hospitalized for COVID. The drug is given through an IV. Meanwhile, the head of Operation Warp Speed is projecting that Moderna's COVID vaccine could be ready by December. His remarks came during a visit to the coronavirus vaccine clinical trial site at George Washington University on Wednesday. It's one of about 100 sites across the country. 9 vaccines are in various phases of clinical trials across the U.S. Currently, Moderna and Pfizer have vaccines in late-stage clinical trials. 2 other late-stage clinical trials, Johnson & Johnson and AstraZeneca's, have been put on hold. An upcoming event at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is helping Hoosiers in need. Gleaner's Food Bank will hold a food distribution event on October 31st. Fruits, vegetables, meats, spices, and Halloween treats will be available at the Mega Fresh Mobile at the Brickyard Food Drive. The Anthem will also provide free flu shots at this event. It'll run from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. People should enter the track at Gate 2. That's off West 16th Street. Here at 5:08 on our Friday, let's toss things over to Todd for a look at our Friday forecast. What's on radar, Todd?
Nothing's on radar right now. That's the good news, and that's why I started with radar, to point out that this morning is the best opportunity for you today to get out and about and enjoy these mild temperatures that are still in place. Even here at 5:09 this morning, we're sitting in the 60s in almost all locations, because here's what's lurking off to our west, a very, very strong cold front that is going to come through with some rain, but the big change will be the decrease decrease in temperatures as we get into the evening hours. So the first half of the day is going to be the warmest part of your Friday. Rain chances will start to ramp up with some isolated downpours here this morning, but the peak rainfall coverage is going to be between about 2 and 6 p.m. That's when the actual front is going to sweep across the state, and then rain chances will decrease as we head into the evening hours. There is the potential for some strong to severe storms as this front goes through, with lightning and wind being the two main threats, but can't completely rule out the chance of some hail with this system as well. We'll talk more detail about the storms and the timeline using TrueCast for you coming up when Good Morning Indiana continues right here on WRTV.
Welcome back. This morning, the United States is joining the UN and other countries in condemning the violence that has erupted in Nigeria. Protests have been ongoing for weeks, with demonstrators calling for an end to the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, or SARS, police unit. The now disbanded squad is accused of using excessive force, torturing, kidnapping, harassment, and extortion. According to human rights group Amnesty International, 56 people have been killed by security forces during protests, 38 of the deaths happening on Tuesday alone. Last night, Nigeria's president called on young people to end the protest, saying in part, quote, "Your voice has been heard loud and clear, and we are responding," end quote. Let's go to Minneapolis now, where a judge has dropped the lesser murder charge against the former police officer accused in the death of George Floyd. Hennepin County District Judge Peter Cahill dropping the third-degree murder charge against Derek Chauvin. The 44-year-old was seen in the now viral video with his knee on George Floyd's neck for nearly 9 minutes. Chauvin still faces the higher charges of second-degree unintentional murder and second-degree manslaughter charges against the other 3 former officers in this case. Those were also upheld. In Washington, the Senate will convene in a rare weekend session to ensure Judge Amy Coney Barrett gets to the Supreme Court before Election Day. Her confirmation would lock in a 6-3 conservative majority on the High Court. A final vote on Barrett is expected to come on Monday. If she's confirmed, President Trump says he intends to nominate U.S. Attorney Thomas Kirsch to the second to fill her spot in the 7th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. Kirsch was appointed to the Northern District of Indiana back in 2017. He's concentrated on prosecuting drug and gang-related crimes. It is 5:14. U.S. Attorney General William Barr took part in a local law enforcement roundtable here in Indianapolis on Thursday. Barr has been making the rounds across the country discussing the federal effort to reduce gun violence dubbed Operation Legend. The coordinated initiative across law enforcement is in 9 cities, and it's meant to address the recent surge in violent crime. It was named for 4-year-old Legend Taliaferro, who was shot and killed while sleeping in his home in Kansas City, Missouri back on June 29, 2020. During the meeting, Barr said, in the months since Operation Legend began, officers have been successful in taking dangerous criminals off the streets.
In just over a couple of months, we've had 5,500 arrests among our 9 cities, including 1,200 murderers, rapists, and other serious violent criminals now off the streets.
Well, earlier this month, it was announced that Operation Legend would continue past its original 45-day plan. Is progress being made when it comes to the relationship between IMPD and the community? Well, we took that question to 2 groups this week, Faith in Indiana and Indy 10 Black Lives Matter. Both have been fighting for racial justice and reform for years, well before this summer's demonstrations and protests. Faith in Indiana supported the push to create a new IMPD General Orders Board that will be made up of 4 civilians and 3 law enforcement officers. Leaders with both organizations say it's a good step forward, but the entire system needs improvements.
What are the people of faith saying needs to be done? So we've done a work around police reform. We're also doing work around rehabilitation instead of incarceration, continuing to do work as it pertains to making sure that we are ensuring that gun reform is happening.
I think, of course, that there are community members who may be in support of policing or their understanding of what policing is, but it needs work. We understand that the police don't live in our communities, that they simply come into the communities to surveil, capture, and incarcerate. And so we are seeking reform in some instances, but ultimately an overall defunding and abolition of that entity.
Well, we reached out to IMPD Chief Randall Taylor. He released a statement saying in part, quote, over the last several years, as the city has invested millions in community-based efforts to improve the health and safety of our neighborhoods, IMPD has remained focused on building bridges of trust with residents and developing the kinds of police neighborhood partnerships that reduce violence, end quote. At 5:17, National Forest lands closed earlier this year in Colorado due to the coronavirus, and they're closed once again, but this time it's for wildfires. A state fire scientist says that normally by this time of year, wildfires start to die down in Colorado, partially due to their snow, but drought and rising temperatures have dragged out this season. The state's record for the largest wildfire has been broken twice this year. Other western fires, like in California, also continue to burn. Back here at home, Todd, we had a nice warm October day yesterday. Hopefully everyone got outside to enjoy it. What can we expect for our Friday?
You know, today starts off nice and mild and pretty quiet, but it turns very active as we get into the afternoon hours. And there is the threat of some strong to severe storms. So here's how your day breaks down as a whole. And you'll notice the headline I have at the bottom here, the severe threat this afternoon. This morning, mild temperatures, and for the most part, it's fairly quiet. We will build in the chance of a spotty shower or two before the noon hour, but it's really this afternoon that the cold front comes through with the severe threat, and then it turns drastically colder very, very quickly later on this evening, and it becomes very windy as well, as the temperatures will be much colder. We're in the 60s right now in all locations for the most part, and it takes a little while, I think, for that Bedford thermometer to kick in and wake up in the morning hours, as it's always running a little bit colder though. 69 in Muncie, 66 in Indianapolis, 68 in Greencastle, and 65 is the current temperature up in the Peru area. We'll hold pretty steady the next couple hours, but by 11 a.m. already pushing into the 70s, and then we'll continue to warm into the mid 70s for your afternoon highs before that cold front arrives. It's clear right now all across the area, and you notice this front stretching from Michigan back through southern Wisconsin into the Kansas City area, and that's what's going to come through here very quickly later on this afternoon. Any outdoor plans you have today, the earlier you do them, the better. As we get into the middle half of the morning, there could be a stray shower that'll start to appear here and there across the area, or a downpour or two. That's not the main severe threat. The main severe threat will be when this front rolls through the area. And the timing for the metro area is probably between, I would say, about 3:30 and 4:30 at this point, or in that vicinity. It comes in a little bit earlier, obviously, off to the west. And then for those of you in eastern locations, probably doesn't get to you until 6, 7 o'clock. Once it goes through, the temperatures immediately will drop very, very quickly, and there could be a lingering shower into the evening hours, but the main severe threat will be when the front makes its way through the area. Marginal risk for severe weather from the Storm Prediction Center, with the exception of northeast Indiana, where there is a slight threat. And here is that evening planner. And if you have high school football games or Friday evening plans, make sure you have the heavier coat. Don't be deceived by the mild temperatures this morning. We'll be in the 50s, and then by 10 p.m. already down into the 40s. As far as your weekend goes, it's brighter, much cooler though. Saturday may start off with a little bit of cloud cover, but then it turns sunny. Only 53 degrees for your high temperature. We're in the mid 50s on Sunday as well, and then we stay in the 50s next week. The wettest stretch of weather here, Raphael, will probably be Sunday night, and then with showers off and on throughout the entire day on Monday.
Oh, Todd, how we missed Thursday. A major change for those flying Southwest Airlines. The company now says it will sell every single seat on its aircraft after reporting some major financial losses. Initially, middle seats were being blocked because, of course, out of fear about the spread of the pandemic. But in an earnings report that was released just Thursday, Southwest cited findings by medical and aviation organizations as a reason for resuming normal sales. A recent study found that wearing masks protected passengers from airborne transmission of the virus. The flight changes will take effect on December the 1st. Delta is now the only major U.S. carrier limiting the number of passengers on its flights.
At 5:21, JCPenney is making progress with its financial woes. The retailer hopes to break out of Chapter 11 before the holiday season. JCPenney filed a draft asset purchase agreement with the nation's two biggest mall owners, Brookfield Asset Management and Indianapolis-based Simon Property Group. Under the plan, Brookfield and Simon would acquire all of JCPenney's assets through a combination of cash and new loan debt. The $500 million deal would save about 70,000 jobs across the U.S.
And so, Lauren, this holiday season, Americans are expected to spend much less than in previous years. No surprise, of course, because of the effects of the pandemic. The National Retail Federation annual survey, they asked more than 7,600 consumers about their holiday shopping plans. Researchers found that on average, people planned to spend a little more than $997 on gifts, food, and other necessities this holiday. That's $50 less than last year. The group says that mainly because people are hesitant to use seasonal sales and promotions to purchase items that will not be gifts.
Well, an Iowa dad creates an impressive Halloween costume for his daughter. How the pandemic helped to spur his creativity. It's 5:22. We'll be right back. Welcome back at 5:25. It's a year haunted by Zoom calls, but now an Iowa dad is channeling his frustrations into making a really creative Halloween costume for his daughter.
So, Lauren, 2020 is going to be remembered for COVID-19, confusion, and a whole lot of creativity. I want you to meet Greg Dittenbach. He designed and built what's called the Killer Zoom and Gloom meeting costume, and you have to see this thing on this Friday. Check it out. It is a replica of a Zoom meeting screen, but all the participants are killers and monsters. Check it out. They include Frankenstein, Dracula, Wolfman, Mummy, the Invisible Man, the creature from the Black Lagoon, wow, I haven't seen him in years, and Blair the Witch. Now, each of the participants is actually Greg's 12-year-old daughter, Ada. The best part, the top slot is reserved for, quote, next victim. It's a built-in iPad with a front-facing camera that features the unsuspecting homeowner. Oh, my goodness, what? I tell you what. This has been obviously a difficult year, but wow, a whole lot of creativity.
That's pretty good.
There's Werewolf, the Mummy. I will say, that is super, super creative. And taking in the whole Zoom aspect that we all been living on here makes it even more creative and funny. All right, this morning it's great outside. We have mild temperatures. We have clear skies. That all changes, though, as the day progresses. Temperatures will climb up into the 70s here by the noon hour. There's the chance of a spot shower or storm before the noon hour, but the bulk of the rainfall that's heading our way and the strongest storms will come through anywhere between about 3 and 6 o'clock. Once we get past 6 o'clock, temperatures will cool off very, very quickly. So don't be deceived by the mild temperatures that are going to stick around like they did yesterday. It does become much, much colder here later on this evening. The time now is 5:27. You're watching Good Morning Indiana right here on WRTV. Stay with us. We're back in just a couple minutes.
Well, it may not feel like it right now, but your Friday plans are going to need to include your jacket. Working for you, meteorologist Todd Clausen is breaking down when the colder weather will move back through.
Can't vote if I don't have a ballot. So, I mean, like, all I can do is continue to try to get my ballot.
More people reaching out to WRTV saying they don't have their absentee ballot yet after applying for one. What we're finding out this morning.
And President Donald Trump and Democratic candidate Joe Biden facing off for the last time before the election. This morning, we're breaking down the top moments from last night's debate. Good Morning Indiana continues right now at 5:30.
From the station working for you, this is Good Morning Indiana, streaming now.
And we want to thank you for joining our team here on Good Morning Indiana. I'm Lauren Casey with Todd Clausen in studio. And Raphael, you joined us a little late this morning because your shot was coming up in Omaha, our sister station over there. So I hope you had a good trip, but we're glad you're back here in Indiana.
So listen, I'm always in for a good Omaha steak. I have to explain that because we were yesterday in disaster recovery training, right? In case something were to happen at the station, the studio, my living room would become the official WRTV studio. So I got stuck in Omaha, which is what they were helping us yesterday. So beautiful trip.
Back.
Lovely place, but I prefer Indiana, even though Todd Clausen the weather's going to change, man. What's up with that?
Hey, I gave you an 80-degree day yesterday with lots of sunshine. It was beautiful from start to finish, and it's the end of October. We have to just, at this point, take what we can get this time of year. But yeah, there are some big changes heading our way as we head into the afternoon and evening hours. It's great right now. You're walking out the door this morning, the temperatures that are in the mid to upper 60s across the area with skies that are mainly clear. But here's the cold front off to our west, and this is going to come through during the middle half of the afternoon. As it does, some strong to maybe severe storms will be a possibility, and the Storm Prediction Center does have most of the state under a marginal risk portion here in northeast Indiana, which does include Grant and Blackford counties under the slight risk. The main threat would be damaging wind. The secondary threat would be hail. This morning we are just fine through about 10 a.m. with temperatures that will be in the 60s. There could be a stray shower as we get into the 11 o'clock and noon hour, but the bulk of the storm activity will be in mid-afternoon. Temperatures are in the mid-70s, so it's another mild day, but don't be deceived because by this evening, once that front goes through Raphael, we are in the 50s. More on that coming up in just a few minutes.
Todd, thank you so much. More than 1 million Hoosiers have already cast their vote as we continue our Democracy 2020 coverage. 11 days before the official November 3rd Election Day. And our Kelsey Anderson is live this morning with your voting options. Good morning, Kelsey.
Hey, good morning, Raphael. So that's right. More than 1 million Hoosiers have either voted early or requested that absentee ballot. And compared to 2016, that is more than we had around, 977,000 votes were cast in person and by mail before Election Day in 2016. So we've already surpassed that early voting from 4 years ago, and we still have, like you said, 11 days left to go. Now, the Secretary of State says the increased number of absentee ballots means final results may not be on election night. You can volunteer as an absentee ballot counter by contacting your county clerk's office as soon as possible. And we expect the early voter numbers to rise because starting this weekend, more polling locations are going to be opening up across the state. And also starting today is Marion County's new wait times website. It will allow you to see what the current wait time is at your voting location. That website is indyvotetimes.org. And again, it's only for here in Marion County. Now, joining those million of Hoosiers who have already voted today is Vice President Mike Pence and Second Lady Karen Pence. They are going to be voting today here in the Circle City. We, of course, will be rolling on that. We'll have that live for you on Facebook, on Twitter, and on the WRTV News app. Reporting live, Kelsey Anderson, WRTV.
Another voting day, busy voting day here in central Indiana, and the Pences are not the only Hoosiers casting their ballots early. We're still waiting on new numbers from the Secretary of State's office, but as of Thursday morning, more than 388,000 Hoosiers had already returned their absentee ballots to the clerk's offices in the mail. Another 477,000 Hoosiers have voted early in person so far. The Secretary of State's office says Indiana is easily on pace to set a new record for early voting. You can also volunteer to help count mailed-in ballots on Election Day. All you have to do is contact your county clerk's office.
And WRTV is working to get answers for people who are still waiting for their ballots to arrive by mail. Teresa Setka says, according to the voter portal, her ballot was mailed out on September 19th. Christian Johnson, who requested an absentee ballot because he's working in Canada, is still waiting as well. Both say they're especially anxious to vote this year.
I mean, it's frustrating, right? Because it's an important election.
This is the biggest election of my life, and I'm serious about it. And I hope other people are too and do their best.
Well, the Marion County Clerk's office tells us a batch of ballots mailed out around September 19th have not arrived yet, or they're just getting to voters. Setka decided not to wait and voted early in person, but we know that's not an option for everyone.
I want to be able to vote, and I feel like it's my duty. Not everyone can vote, and like those who can should. It's frustrating in that aspect, especially being out of the country. It's not like I can just, I couldn't vote absentee, so I'm just going to go vote in person.
If you requested an absentee ballot but you've not received it yet, you can fill out an ABS 5 form to request a new one.
Lauren, this morning, the U.S. Postal Service says it has transported, this is a big number, over 100 million ballots nationwide since September. That includes the ballots sent to voters and ballots being returned to election offices. The Postal Service says it has mailed over 500 million pieces of election mail this year. That's an increase of 162% from 2016.
Well, President Trump and Democratic candidate Joe Biden meeting for their final presidential debate. ABC's Faith Abube is in Washington with a breakdown of some key moments.
The final presidential debate opening with one of the biggest issues facing this country, a virus that's ravaged the economy and killed more than 222,000 Americans in just 7 months.
I say we're learning to live with it. We have no choice. We can't lock ourselves up in a basement like Joe does.
People are learning to die with it. Anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain as President of the United States of America.
The president defending his handling of the pandemic while painting a rosy picture at odds with what the data shows.
It will go away, and as I say, we're rounding the turn, we're rounding the corner.
We're about to go into a dark winter, and he has no clear plan.
The relatively calmer debate, noticeably low on interruptions, but just as high on attacks.
We have to provide health insurance for people at an affordable rate, and that's what I do.
He was now there as vice president for 8 years. He didn't do anything. He didn't do it. He wants socialized medicine.
President Biden, he's a very confused guy. He thinks he's running against somebody else. This is the guy who's tried to cut Medicare.
On the economy, Trump insisting he's better for the job.
If he gets in, you will have a depression the likes of which you've never seen. Your 401ks will go to hell.
What is on the ballot here is the character of this country.
In their closing arguments, Trump telling voters economic success will unify the nation. Biden saying if elected, he would represent every American and address systemic racism.
I think I have great relationships with all people. I am the least racist person in this room.
Abraham Lincoln here is one of the most racist presidents we've had in modern history. He pours fuel on every single racist fire.
And both candidates are back on the campaign trail today. Joe Biden will be stumping in Delaware while Trump heads to Florida. Faith Abube, ABC News, Washington.
At 5:39 this morning, police here are investigating a deadly shooting at a gas station on Indy's northwest side. This happened around 7 Thursday night at the Marathon gas station on North High School Road and 38th Street. Police say a man was found with gunshot wounds and taken to the hospital where he later died. Police have not released any additional details at this time.
Indiana recording another single-day record in the new cases of COVID-19. These are the latest numbers as we have them here at WRTV. The State Department of Health reporting 2,880 new cases on Thursday. That previous record was just over 2,500, which was reported just last Saturday. More than 155,000 cases have been confirmed in the state since the pandemic began. 42 new deaths were also reported, raising the state's death toll now to 3,831. This morning, Indiana's Catholic bishops are extending a dispensation from the obligation to attend Mass on Sunday. The order runs until further notice. The bishops cite the rise in COVID-19 cases across the state. Many parishes have turned to live streaming masses because of the rise in COVID cases. Step outside this morning, you may think it's Thursday 2.0, but Todd Clausen has a warning for you on this Friday.
Yeah, you know, it's nice and mild this morning. That's the good news, and skies are partly cloudy, so anything you want to do here this morning, whether it's just getting out to walk for a cup of coffee or getting your day started, heading off to work, you're just fine. Heading home, it's a different story, though. During the heart of the evening drive, we'll be dealing with showers and thunderstorms across the area. Radar is quiet right now, but off to our west, here is the cold front, and this will be heading in our direction. So you have to kind of prepare for several things as we go throughout the course of the day today. One will be for the rain that will develop, and then two will be for the drastic drop in temperatures. So you may not think you need the jacket right now, but if your plans keep you away from the house until later on this evening, you will want the jacket. As soon as that front goes through, temperatures drop like a rock by tomorrow, and then into the weekend, we're talking about high temperatures that'll barely be above 50 degrees in some locations. We'll talk about that 7-day planning forecast and the storm threat for this afternoon in more detail coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, Todd, thank you. So IndyCar's final race of the season will once again decide the series championship. Coming up, why the contenders may be familiar, but the venue is not. It is 5:41. Stick around. We'll be right back.
On this Friday, some encouraging improvements surrounding the infant mortality rate here in Marion County. The Marion County Public Health Department says that for 2019, the overall infant mortality rate in the county was 8.8 deaths per 1,000 live births. In 2018, that number was 9.2 deaths per 1,000 live births. The black infant mortality rate in Marion County in 2019 was 10.9 deaths per 1,000 live births. Now that's a drop from 14 deaths per 1,000 live births in 2018. The Marion County Health Department says the top causes for infant mortality are low birth weight, premature birth, and birth defects. And they say the contributors to these serious causes include maternal smoking, a lack of adequate prenatal care, the lack of folic acid, and alcohol use. On this Friday, Todd Clausen, I can't wait to see our own Lauren Casey break out that big body scarf that I think includes its own thermal heater because, as you know, she is sensitive, uber sensitive to cool temperatures. So I cannot wait to see how she changes for the new newscast in her whole full bodysuit. Help her out today, Todd. Help her out.
It's a blanket scarf, yes.
I think at the noon newscast, she'll be just fine. But later on this evening,
Tonight,
she'll be bundled up because, take a look. I don't always start with the big picture here, but I want to show you what's heading our way right off the bat, and then we'll kind of break it down for you closer to home. You can easily spot where the cold front is. Look at Chicago, 69 degrees right now, and then you get to Des Moines, Iowa, and it's a 36. So there's a very drastic drop-off in temperatures behind the cold front that is heading our way, and that's going to arrive later on this afternoon. So don't be fooled by this mild air that's in place for the first half of the day. Yesterday was obviously right around 80 degrees, and then we stayed mild throughout the evening hours. Not the case here for the day today. So this morning is a great opportunity for you to get out and about and get that workout in or walk around the neighborhood with temperatures that'll be holding steady in the 60s and then climbing up into the 70s already by the noon hour. But we'll kind of cap our temperatures today by about 2 o'clock, and then we'll start to fall. And notice by 5 o'clock, we're already down to 65 degrees, and then the temperatures will continue to drop off from that point throughout the remainder of the evening hours. We're building in just a few fair weather clouds here this morning. We're dry right now. The cold front is off to our west. I showed you the temperature map, and here's the dividing line with the precipitation along that front, and this will drop through central Indiana during the afternoon hours. It's not out of the question before that front arrives that a few isolated showers or storms could flare up simply because we'll be increasing the instability. It's going to be warm out. So I would say by the noon hour, a few downpours will be possible here or there, but the main action is with the passage of the cold front. It arrives about 2 o'clock in western locations. It's approaching the metro area right around 4 o'clock, and then it moves off towards the east and out of the state by about 6 or 7. So it's a quick moving front that comes through. You'll get a big burst of rain, probably some gusty winds, and it's not out of the question that a couple of these storms could be borderline strong to severe. There's a slight risk for severe weather in Peru as well as over into the Hartford City area. The rest of the area is under a marginal risk of severe storms. Wind and hail probably the two main threats. Can't completely rule out the chance of an isolated tornado, but that would mainly be in northern locations. The severe threat is done, though, for high school football, or by high school football time this evening, I should say, as the showers will diminish. But look how the temperatures continue to drop. By 8 p.m., we're down into the 50s. You wake up tomorrow morning and temperatures are going to be about 25 degrees cooler than they are right now. We're only right around 42 to start your day. And then throughout your Saturday, morning clouds give way to sunshine, but it's much, much cooler, even with the sunshine tomorrow. We're looking at highs only right around 53 degrees, 54 on Sunday. Most of Sunday's dry. The showers develop late, and then they're with us off and on and fairly numerous throughout the day on Monday. Lauren?
All right, Todd, thanks so much. Let's take a look at traffic as you're heading out on the roads this Friday. No major issues to slow you down planning out your drive if you're traveling from Hendricks County, areas to our west over to the west side of Indianapolis. A 7-minute commute from State Road 267 to the I-465 ramp system. No delays. And on southbound I-65 heading in from Boone County, areas like State Road 267, Whitestown, Zionsville. No delays getting into downtown. If you're traveling to I-70 at the North Split, it's a 21-minute commute, and that is traveling up to speed. Raphael?
So, Lauren, no surprise, IndyCar's season goes by really fast, just like that, right? It comes all to an end this Sunday. WRTV's Brad Brown reports on a pair of champions looking to add to their impressive resume.
If it seems like the two drivers competing for IndyCar's 2020 Series Championship have been here before, you are not mistaken. Scott Dixon and Joseph Newgarden. 4 of the last 5 years, one of that duo has held the Astor Cup when it was all done. They'll battle for it again on Sunday.
You know, he's been consistent throughout his whole career. He's just always there. He's very dependable and very capable in any situation.
Joseph is exceptionally good in all areas, you know, that IndyCar throws at you.
Dixon started the season in dominating fashion. 3 wins in the first 3 races. He built a nearly 150-point lead and looked like a shoo-in for the title. But in these last 4 races, he finished 10th, 9th, and 8th.
For us, we try to typically keep it pretty simple, but I would say that was not the case for the last few races, which got us into a bit of a tailspin. And obviously, you know, Joseph and Team Penske, well, him and his teammates have been doing a fantastic job.
As Dixon's results faded, Newgarden made a charge in the stretch run. Wins at Gateway and the Harvest GP at IMS cut the margin to just 32 points for the season finale.
I'm surprised we're here, to be honest. You know, it almost makes it more disappointing looking at the year now that we've clawed back to this point, because we were in such a deficit and there was such a hill, and we've reduced the hill without a doubt, but it's still a mountain to climb.
This marks the 15th straight season that the championship will come down to the final race. But it will be the first time the streets of St. Petersburg host the championship. Originally the season opener in March, it took a massive effort to get this October date on the calendar.
I think how all of us started the season, you know, loading into St. Pete, getting ready to go, and then waking up on Friday and saying that, well, you know, you probably need to book a flight to go home. So, you know, it's nice to end it in full circle and go back to St. Pete this year.
I think just thankful that we're able to go back and race there this season, you know, and it's going to be, I think, a really fun time in October. It's a different ending for us than we've seen in IndyCar.
IndyCar broke it down for us. Dixon has 1 more win, but 8 top 5s for each driver. Newgarden led the most laps in the series this season. St. Pete itself could be the X factor. Dixon has yet to win there, finishing runner-up 4 times. Newgarden won this race last March.
So here's the short version of how Sunday's points battle could play out. If Dixon finishes 9th or better, he's guaranteed the series championship. As for Newgarden, the best case scenario for him is to win pole, lead the most laps, and win the race. Even then, he would still need Dixon to finish outside the top 10 to clinch the title. So will it be back-to-back for Newgarden, or does Dixon win his 6th? We'll be there Sunday in St. Pete to find out. Brad Brown, WRTV Sports.
All right, Brad, thank you. Well, have you ever seen a green puppy before? Stick around because we're going to introduce you to this appropriately named Pistachio just after the break.
So grab another cup of coffee because your eyes will not be deceiving you on this Friday. Have you ever seen a green puppy? You heard me right. Have you ever seen a green puppy? It may sound something like out of a storybook, but it's not. Let me take you to Italy, where a farmer could not believe his eyes. One of his farm dogs gave birth to a tiny green puppy earlier this month. There's no doubt that Pistachio is special. His 4 brothers and sisters were all born with white fur. Now, the green fur thought to happen because the pup had contact with a green pigment in the womb. The farmer says that green is the symbol of hope and luck, so maybe it was meant to be that Pistachio could put a smile on people's faces. Todd, I think we have just found our official mascot for St. Patrick's Day for March the 17th, and I think it's going to feel like March by the end of today.
You know, it is. You know, March is one of those months where the temperatures are kind of climbing out of the 40s into the 50s as the month progresses, and we'll be in the 50s later on today. So today's one of those tough days to prepare for because it's so mild and dry to start off the day, and our temperature climbs up into the mid-70s, but then the cold front comes through during the afternoon hours with the potential of strong to severe storms, and soon as that front goes through, a drastic temperature drop will take place. We'll go from the 70s into the 60s very quickly, and then eventually by this evening into the 50s. So if you have evening plans tonight, don't be deceived by the warm temperatures out there right now. Here is the front right now. This will arrive mid-afternoon across most of central Indiana. With it will come the threat of some strong to severe storms. We'll talk more about that severe threat for you, as well as the cooler temperatures for the weekend coming up when Good Morning Indiana continues at the top of the hour. Stay with us. We're back in just a couple minutes.